This is an example of a pan shot, often used to reveal an object or character. This is an example of a tilt shot, which can also be used to reveal something that wasn't previously in the frame. This is an example of a crab shot, often used to track an object or character as they move through the frame. This is a tracking shot and is often used to track characters when they walk forwards or backwards. This shot obeys the rule of thirds, having each character on 1/3 of the screen and having their eye line on the top third. This shot is an extreme close-up. It allows us to see small details in the character's face such as emotions, and also emphasises small movements such as an eyebrow raise. This is a close-up shot, which makes the audience feel uncomfortable as they are so close to the character's face. This is an example of a medium close-up. This is an example of a medium or mid shot. This is a wide shot. This is an extreme wide shot or an establishing shot, which can be used to show the location of the scene. This is an example of a focus pull. This is an example of handheld camera operation and is often used in action movies to make the scene feel more dramatic. This is an example of a low angle shot and is often used to make a character seem large or powerful. And then this is an example of a high angle shot, often used to make a character seem small or weak. This is an example of slow motion. It can be used to make a scene feel more dramatic and also draw attention to a key detail that spends longer on the screen. This is an example of shot reverse shot, in which the camera is placed over the subject's shoulders and obeys the 180-degree rule, alternating between the two subjects. We most commonly see this technique in interviews. This is an example of match and action, in which the cut is made invisible by the repetition of the same action at the same point, masking the edit entirely. This is an example of look room, where the character is on 1/3 of the screen and has 2/3 of the screen for what is called look space. This is an example of a jump cut, often used in horror movies for a cheap scare. These are examples of noddies and they're also used in interviews. They're used to cut away from the subject's face if they make a mistake whilst talking, and the edit hides the fact that they've messed up. This is an example of a cutaway and can be used to draw attention to something important in a scene. These are examples of some basic transitions. This editing technique is known as parallel action, and it's when it links multiple characters in multiple places to a single scenario. What you see here is an example of fast-paced editing. In this, the shots are cut very quickly between each other and there's not much time for each shot. This emphasises the drama in the scene and makes it feel more urgent and panicky. In contrast, this shot is an example of slow-paced editing, in which the cuts are slowed down completely and emphasises a much more calm and relaxed feel to the scene. This is used to distinguish between dramatic and calm moods in films. There are two main categories of sound in filmmaking. The first is known as diegetic sound, and it's when you can hear the sound of something that you can actually see visibly in the scene. For example, you might be able to hear the sound of my alarm clock ticking or the sound of my computer fan. The second type of sound is known as non-diegetic sound, and it's when you can't actually see something in the scene visibly, but if you came to the actual location you might expect to hear the sound anyway. In my bedroom, an example of non-diegetic sound can be the sound of a car going past the window or even the sound of birds outside. There are three types of microphone that are commonly used in filmmaking. The first is what I have on my camera now. This is a shotgun mic and it's a directional microphone, so it picks up the sound from just what's in front of it and not from sideways on. This is most commonly used in conjunction with a boom pole, and it's used to get the microphone above the subject and just pointing down, so you only get the sound you want and you don't get any unwanted sound leaking in from the sides or above. A lav mic is most commonly used in interview situations where you can hide the microphone on people without having to have the need for a boom pole to be above who are pointing down. And it's also used if you go out into the streets with documentaries and things, because people can have a portable sound recorder on them, and then the audio can be taken from the sound recorder later and synced up in post with the footage. The last type of microphone is what I have here. This is known as a cardioid mic. This particular one's a condenser microphone, and they're very good for doing voiceovers and things like that because they capture very high quality sound, and there's a lot of bass in the sound, so it sounds very professional. They're also commonly used to record vocals or instruments because of the high sound quality. This is an example of bad audio. This is a short film we made that combines most of the editing and camera techniques I explained earlier. As you can hear, underneath this short film we have a music track. Music and soundtracks are commonly used to emphasise the feeling or mood of the scene. For example, a shot of someone crying and hugging friends and family can be interpreted two ways depending on the music that's put behind it. If happy music is used underneath, it will make the character appear joyful, whereas if sad music is used, it will be obvious that the character is upset. Furthermore, what I'm doing now by talking over the footage is known as narration. Narration, funnily enough, can be used to add narrative to a scene. It can be used to explain the plot line or outline key details that may not have come across in the scene. Filming outside tends to lead to the sound of a lot of wind coming down the microphone, which is a huge pain as it normally means that the audio will be unusable when you get back. This tends to be the downfall of filming on mobile phones, as they have omnidirectional microphones, which means they pick up the sound from all around them. Another big problem with audio is that you can get a lot of background noise that you don't really want, like the sound of cars going past or the sound of aeroplanes going overhead. Also, when recording inside, the sound of fridges, vending machines and air conditioning units can make a lot of noise as well. A lot of people that use separate microphones don't record to the camera, but they actually record to a portable sound recorder, such as the Zoom H1. One of the problems with this is that the sound doesn't go into the camera, but rather into the recording device. This means it will have to be synced up later with the footage in post-production. Although you can get software to do this, it tends to be quite expensive, so a lot of people try to do it manually. However, this can often lead to the problem of having audio out of sync with the footage. Here's an example. The last type of microphone is what I have here. This is known as a cardioid mic. This particular one's a condenser mic. As you can see, it's not the best. The last sound technique I'm going to mention is sound effects. There are several different categories of sound effects. The first one is Foley, which is the recreation of sounds that would be in the scene anyway. Foley is often used if the sound from the original recording has been taken out, and so the sounds you would expect to hear in the scene have to be re-recorded. You also have ambient sounds such as background noise, which is like the adding of cars and sound of planes, people talking and things like that if you're in a busy area. Then you have the adding of sounds for things such as visual effects such as explosions and gunshots, etc. Sound effects come in a variety of shapes and forms and make the overall video seem more rounded in terms of sound. That concludes this tutorial of camera work, editing techniques and sound techniques. Thank you very much for watching.